Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. Welcome back to another episode of Geeks Watch. Uh, Straighten my shirt up. Today, we're going to talk about the classic 1947 film Miracle on 34th Street, an image of which you will see right here. And no, your eyes do not deceive you. This is an actual VHS tape, which I have watched numerous times and which I still continue to watch because I haven't replaced it or anything and I don't stream much because I am old, and this is how long I've been collecting movies for my personal stash. So, Miracle on 34th Street centers around an older gentleman named Chris, who winds up being a substitute Santa Claus for the Macy's Day Thanksgiving Parade. The woman who works for Macy's, who organized the whole thing, her Santa Claus is drunk, trying to keep warm on, Thanksgiving morning. She sees this kindly old gentleman who is Santa Claus looking, who has informed her that her Santa Claus is drunk. She gets him to substitute, and then hires him to be the Santa Claus for the Macy's store in New York during their Christmas sale. I realize I'm going to spoil the whole story, but this movie's 70 years old. So, doing a little mental math in my head. So, maybe I'm not going to spoil too much of it. Anyway, he goes on to become the Santa Claus for the store. Stuff happens. We learn his name is legally Kris Kringle. He lives in an old folks' home. And some people don't like the fact that he calls himself Kris Kringle and think he's kind of, one person in particular thinks he's delusional. And several people think he's delusional, but only one person has a problem with it. The rest of the people are like, well, he seems nice enough, who cares? Only one person really has a problem with it. And of course, he makes an issue out of it, and the story goes on from there. So I'm not going to spoil everything, in case you haven't seen it. If you haven't seen it, it's a good movie. Anyway, I'm not going to spoil any more of it for whatever reason, because I don't like spoiling things. It's my thing. I don't spoil stuff, and any more than I have to. This is probably my favorite Christmas movie of all time. That may shock some people, I guess, because there are other more movies that are perhaps better known, I think. Who knows? But this is my favorite Christmas movie for a number of reasons. One of the things I think that has attracted me to it is that the actor who plays Kris Kringle is probably one of the more natural actors for films made in this time. If you watch a lot of old movies, as I have done, you'll notice that the movies made in the old black and white era, that the main characters tend to carry themselves in a specific way. Their body posture, their body language, and their way of speaking is all very precise and has a similar, their speaking has a similar rhythm to it, tempo. And I think that has a lot to do with the studios having people under contract and really like training people, to behave a certain way. A lot of the actors from this time were all ex-military. They've been in World War II or World War I. So they always had a very rigid military posture. But the actor who played Kris Kringle had a much more normal way of speaking and presenting himself. He was much more natural, I guess. There were actors during this time that didn't follow that same pattern, but they were more like John Wayne, Jimmy Cagney, Humphrey Bogart, Jimmy Stewart. Those people were well known and well-known actors. And they didn't follow that mold, but they were also known for their playing a character of a specific type. A lot of the leading men and women of the day, again, had a very similar way of presenting themselves, speaking and moving and standing, and this guy didn't. So I think his character felt very natural, as opposed to other character actors and other characters at the time. And I think that's something that stuck to me. But there are a couple other things too. One of the things is that, he is hinted as being Santa Claus, and there are things that happen in the film that kind of hint that maybe he might be. But unlike a lot of films, it's never clearly stated. Nothing truly miraculous happens. It's all very coincidental. He's very nice and friendly and charismatic and charming, and he seems to know a lot about stuff. But he knows about toys, he knows about kids. But this is nothing that you couldn't do if you were delusionally Santa Claus, and you could do on your own. This is nothing happens that couldn't actually really happen. So it's really left up to us as the viewer to decide if he was Santa Claus or not, which I think a lot of movies miss. When they have that portrayal of the mystery, there's always something at the end of that movie, that little sneak thing at the end where it's like truly miraculous. There's something really miraculous happens at the end of the film, or they sneak something in there. Whereas this really leaves it open-ended. And that always drew me in as well. And the third thing that kind of drew me in to this film is that there's a running theme sort of about that faith is important. And we're not talking about religious faith. We're talking about faith in the decency of other people. Faith that people can be better. That's really Chris's whole thing. It's that, people should be better. And there's really only a couple things. His faith is only really shaken once from that. And it doesn't last long. But he seems to be a person who generally has faith in the goodness of humanity. And that's really one of the underlying themes of the film. And there's a line in the film, which I will spoil, that Maureen O'Hara says. He's the female lead. She says that faith is believing in something when common sense tells you not to. Which is kind of iffy, because that can lead to some blind zealotry. Blind faith is never a good thing. But, really it struck me that faith was important. That, you have to have faith that people can be better, that things will get better. And that's important. And I guess it was important to me because, this film has stuck with me through the years. A couple little tidbits I learned when thinking about making this little recording is that they actually filmed this during the Macy's Day Parade in 1946. If you watch this film, none of this stuff that you see is camera trickery. If you see these people standing at Macy's Day Parade, they were standing in Macy's Day Parade. They got permission from the City of New York and the Macy's Company. And this was filmed during the major New York Thanksgiving Day Parade. They had to get everything in one take. They scrambled like mad. They had 9 camera crews. I didn't know that. That's insane that they actually went ahead and did this. It was Maureen O'Hara was saying it was freezing cold. Another thing is that she also originally turned down the role for the part. She had just moved back with her family to Ireland. She didn't want to come back to New York and film. Then she read the script and she accepted the part. So those are some cool little tidbits about the film that I didn't know about. I think everything else. I love the film. Oh, this film was actually released in the spring. It was not released as a Christmas film. This film was released in May, I think, and they actually did a lot to hide that it was a Christmas film. All like the trailers and stuff. I didn't watch any of them, but I was reading this, the notes. And yeah, this was billed. This is a springtime movie, and they did that as kind of like a prelude. They wanted people to get excited about this film for Christmas, so they aired it in the spring, thinking that maybe people would come back and revisit it, or whatever. I don't know, but they, this was a spring movie, which I thought was kind of odd. And I think I remember reading something about that once a long time ago, but a little refresher. Also, I try and get an image that matches the box, and that's the closest I could get. And that I had to get off of like an advertisement of someone who's selling it, which is why the background's white, not the usual black. Anything else? No? Okay. I love this movie. I would highly recommend it. There were several other remakes. I'm digressing a bit again. There was one in 1994 with one of the actors who played Dumbledore and the girl who played Matilda. I'm blanking on their names. The actors' names. My apologies. I don't have any notes. I'm going off the top of my head. There were also several TV remakes. That one might have been a TV remake too, but there's been like 3 or 4 remakes for straight to TV. And I've seen one of them, but I might have seen the other ones too, but this one is still my favorite of the versions of it. And I think always will be, just because of this guy here. Where is he? This guy. Right, there's the beard. He's got some great lines. Another thing I want to mention before I close off. This film was made in 1947. And one of the things they talk about in this film is the commercialization of Christmas, about how Christmas is becoming too commercial. That was 70 years ago, and it's just gotten worse. They're selling Christmas decorations before Halloween starts. You know, and they were pointing out how bad commercialization of Christmas was in 1947. And about how how stores are only interested in pumping out sales. They don't care about their customers. They don't care about, anything but their bottom line profits. And that's another thing that this film addresses, is that, corporations should care more about people and less about their profits. And it hasn't gotten any better, people. Commercialization of Christmas has only gotten worse. Well, I don't want to leave it on a depressing note. So, I love this movie. I think you should watch it. Even if you've seen it before, I think you should watch it. If you haven't seen it before, you should watch it. It's a good, fun Christmas movie. Remember, 1947 version, not the other ones. As always, thanks for watching. As always, if you like my stuff, you must have a tendency for self-punishment, and so go punish yourself with my other crap. And as always, until next time, good hunting.